You're watching Hodgepodge. This is the Westcott Ballroom. I'm Shawn Beechner, your host. We're going to take you on a little tour of what our music venue is about. This all started after we moved in to this residence. We started having large parties, and then our parties grew in size and number. We started having bands, local music talent, playing upstairs to all of our party goers. And eventually it got to the point where we knew that we were having events that were too big just to have in a normal Syracuse flat. We started planning on having shows down here. There had never been any type of rock shows in this place, but the nice thing that we had was a basement that was clean, no spider webs, not a lot of ductwork, and it was very open. And we figured we could make something out of this. We had our first show back in late 2015 featuring Rochester talent Harmonica Lewinsky as well as King Buffalo, who are now touring Europe. That show was a tremendous success. We had a lot of guests out. Bands had a good time. Fans had a good time. And we knew we were on to something. And that would start us off on having shows that has continued now to this day, with each show getting bigger, having bigger music acts, more guests out, and still having that same feel of our parties, where it all started from having just a lot of really, truly cool people, people that are not here just to, destroy the place, but people that are here to see a good rock show and have an even better time. And that continues now to the shows that we are planning for summer of 2017, which we hope you will all be a part of. The difference here is people know that when we put on shows, we're putting on the biggest show we can, not every weekend, not even a couple of times a month, usually once a month. You come out to the Westcott Ballroom, you know you're going to see some of the best music talent in the Northeast playing right in front of you. You know that you're going to be in a venue, albeit a basement, that doesn't look like a basement, nor does it look like any other type of music venue in the area or in the region. When you come to the Westcott Ballroom, you come for the experience, you come for the feel, you come for the people that are here. You come because we give out free candy and free soda to people who stop out to our shows. Um, it's a great place to meet new people. It's a great place to experience new music. And it's actually one of the type of hidden gems that if I were new to this type of town, I hope that someone would instantly tell me I'd have to go to, because it's a type of place that people who come here, who see our shows, they come back because they know they're always going to get a good time because of good production and good people. So that's what we bring to the table. It's all about being honest with the music. It's not trying to just get bands who you think could bring some people out. Maybe they can, but bands that you're not into, bands that you're not into their music. This is all about music that if I were a fan goer, I would want to hear. It's all about trying to give people of Syracuse, people of other cities around, a chance to experience music that they might not otherwise ever hear. But stuff, the type of bands, the type of music that these bands play, stuff that people end up liking, end up loving, end up following all around. And that's what it's about, is being honest with the people that are going to the shows and the bands. You're here not to make money. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to put on the best show I can for people and the best atmosphere I can with the best musicians I can find. And that honesty, being true to the music, being true to putting on that type of show for people or that type of experience, is something that gets lost in translation with all these other places, these bigger venues that are all about, here, we're going to get you a couple of bands you might have heard of, pay us a lot of money, and go away. We're not about that. It's all about an experience. The plan for the future here at the Westcott Ballroom is to keep growing is to keep trying to get bigger and bigger music acts out, uh, bigger names, uh, and make it to where we get more and more concert goers out at the same time. We just want to keep this growing. It's all about making connections, and it's all about growing as not only a show booker, a show promoter, a venue manager, but just meeting all these great people out there playing music and just taking this place as high as we can. Um, we only have a capacity of about 100 people here, but if we could keep on filling this up with that many people, like at our last show, it would be a really great thing to basically be as big as we can till it runs its course, like all music venues end up doing. You know, CBGB's had years and years in, but eventually it shut down, and we're just going to keep making the most of this place as long as we can. It all started, the name the Westcott Ballroom, when I was having a conversation with my friend Scott Donaldson, who was a drummer for King Buffalo. And when I was trying to book them to play our first show, we were going back and forth trying to come up with what to call this place. And down the street, there's a place called the Westcott Theater, which is notable for having shows and whatnot. And there's also the Westcott Community Center. And we were kind of going back and forth, and I don't know who mentioned it, but someone was like, "Hey, we should call it the Westcott Ballroom." And I was just like, "Yeah," because it's not quite a ballroom, but just that type of name. There's that little tongue-in-cheek aspect of it that keeps things interesting. It seemed like the perfect fit for what we were trying to do, and over time, a lot of people who had seen the Westcott Ballroom back when we started, they kind of instantaneously would assume that we were either the Westcott Theater or the Community Center or some other place. But over time, eventually, people started catching on, and it's like, hey, this is its own separate entity. They put on cool shows there, and that's where we are today. We try to fill that void in some way, shape, or form. As you can see, we have a multitude of mirror balls here. One of the calling cards to our place over time has been our mirror balls being broken. Pretty much almost every show we have, either a singer of a band will rip them down and break them, or we had one singer of a band rip one apart with his bare hands and wear the mirror ball half on his head. So if you look at our logo, which was designed by Travis at New Designs, it's actually a mirror ball exploding. I would kind of describe Westcott, where we're located in Syracuse, as firstly probably the only place I could imagine living in Syracuse. Syracuse is a very rough city, and this is kind of its little a reprieve from the rest of the city. It's a very free-spirited, open-minded type of place. You have a lot of college students, professors, you have hippies, hipsters, all surrounding you, and everyone, for the most part, is pretty cool with everything that goes on around here. The type of stuff that we do here, if you were in normal suburbia, most neighbors wouldn't stand for that, even though we don't necessarily make much noise or much more noise than any other places that are going on. But in a lot of places, neighbors just like to complain. But in Westcott, it's almost encouraged what you do here, doing something different, doing something unique, doing something that nobody else is doing, bringing something new to the table, making some type of artistic expression, even in a type of music that you have being performed here. That's what Westcott is about. A lot of people describe it as Little Portland in a way, and granted, it is about 100th the size of that city. It does have that type of ideology, and that's something that I don't think I'd want to live without at this point. They say keep Westcott weird, and it's because it isn't about actually it being a weird place. It's about people actually doing different things, usually artistic type of things that try to make this place not be just another suburb, just another section of Syracuse, New York. Westcott has an identity, and a lot of times people, especially people who aren't as artistic, who aren't as open minded, they get scared of that. They get scared of what this place is about. And this place is about being free and open more than any other place. Some people can't handle that. But that's why the Westcott Ballroom is here. We're in a perfect area for what we do and for who we're trying to play to. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I guess that some of the highlights would start, obviously, our first show, just showing people that we could actually do this and pull it off. But our second show was a music video shoot for a local band called Heretofore. They had a song called Robot Dance Party, where they invited all of their friends to dress as robots, and they basically made a music video down here. That was a very interesting night. Fast forward a couple of months, we had a band from Rochester called Hot Mayonnaise play here, and they definitely have a very loud and raucous sound to them. And at one point in their show, the mosh pit that ended up happening, it grew so wild that one of my good friends actually got thrown through the sheetrock wall down here. And she's a sweetheart. She actually ended up apologizing, and it was like, Aaron, it's not your fault. These things happen. And that was definitely an interesting show. We also had a big Rochester Invade show last spring, featuring the Temptators, Buffalo Sex Change, Beastman, all from Rochester, and a local Syracuse band, American Glove. And that was a very big show for us. We had 80 people down here, and it was our biggest endeavor to that point. And again, that showed that we could have shows on a much larger scale than a lot of other places, or even what we were necessarily expecting. We've had many shows over last summer and fall and whatnot, but a couple weeks ago, May 4th to be exact, we had Screaming Females play from New Brunswick, New Jersey. And they are a very big band. They've got 40-something thousand Facebook likes. They just got back from a tour of New Zealand. And it was a big show. They're the type of band that would normally not want to play just a basement venue, even a fancy ballroom one like ours. But we worked it out with them, and for that show, we went all out. We had actual tickets printed up, a ticket link, and in the end, we just about sold out that show. Had over 100 people down here, and that kind of has set the tone for what we're going to try to do over the summer here. Have a lot more these much larger shows, constantly work on trying to get the absolute biggest names we can get in our tiny abode here out to put on the best damn rock shows we possibly can. The biggest struggles with this place, obviously, trying to get people out to shows. We do as good a job as a place possibly can for getting the word out through connections, through social media. We flyer cities, we flyer Syracuse, Rochester. We hang them up in New York when we can. We do whatever we can to get the word out, but a lot of times it's just, when you try to put on a big show, you don't know how it's going to be. And we're just very fortunate that the stuff we put on, people have gravitated towards, and we've been able to pretty constantly have really good crowds here for even stuff that's more local. So that's definitely one of the biggest struggles. But there's also, issues with still being in a residential community, still dealing with neighbors and stuff. Our neighbors around here are, for the most part, very, very cool. But last summer, we actually did have the police called. But uh, they basically just told us to keep it down. They weren't about shutting down the show, uh, and that worked out. And since then, it's been pretty cool. We've haven't had any other major issues to speak of. So we hope that that track record will continue uh, as long as this place is around. As many people know, I have a local band called the Casbah Sounds. We played here. We played all around Syracuse over the past year or so. And the best way to describe that music is probably alternative punkish in a way. Some people compare us to the Replacements a little. Some people say we're like Dead Moon. But that's the type of music that drives me. I like music. I like rock music that's guitar oriented, music that has rhythm, that has melody. I like those big choruses, those big hooks. Um, Most modern rock that at least they play on the radio is nothing I'd want to listen to or ever have play here. But the type of music that I am into is found often in Rochester, New York. Rochester, New York has a thriving music scene, and we've had more Rochester bands than someone can count play here. There's something special about what they have going out there and the musicians and the people, and it's always an honor to get them out to Syracuse because Syracuse doesn't have an outlet for alternative type of music. All the venues that people know about in Syracuse, the above ground venues. If you're an alternative band here, if you're from Rochester, there's almost no place to really play. Maybe you can get a gig at Alto Cinco, maybe an Ultra Cinco, but that's about it. What we have going on here is like a safe haven for those type of bands. For any band from out of town that wants a place to play in Syracuse, but doesn't have a place to. We try to just book rock music, alternative, surf, punk, rockabilly, indie, garage, psych, anything you could think of. It's got to be rock music. It's got to have that guitar in it, those rhythm, melody. It's got to have some substance to it. Again, it's a type of thing where if I can't be excited by a band, I can't imagine putting on a show and trying to get other people excited about a band playing here. Every act that I've ever booked through here is a band that I would want to go see if they were playing another venue. So that's one of the things. Your music has to be something special to kind of get in here. The special thing about the music scene that's here in Syracuse, where the Westcott Ballroom is located, is that there's a lot of different genres and different people who are all trying different things. And there's definitely an underground contingent of people who want this place to be another type of like New York, Los Angeles, another hotbed for music. And Syracuse has gone through a lot of different shifts over the years from way back in the day. You know, a lot of southern rock bands were popular. New wave and punk stuff got popular. In the 90s, especially, hardcore music was the rage here. Syracuse is carving its own identity out there. It's a quirky little city that is very conveniently located in the state. A lot of bands wind up going through here, but Syracuse, unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of venues to deal with. But that's one thing that we're trying to do is, as part of this whole scene that's happening in Syracuse, or the scene that's trying to develop here, is trying to give out-of-town bands another option to play in this area a lot of times when they're just passing through, and have them experience what this city is about. There's a soul to the city that you can't just find on every street corner, but it's there. And it's one of those things that the stuff that does happen in the city, it isn't just given to you on a silver plate. You have to dig for it. But the more you dig, the better it does get. The difference with this versus cities like, like Boston, like Buffalo, or Philadelphia is that the underground scene is a better type of scene is a more exciting scene to be a part of here than the overground scene. What's happening underground with these venues, what's happening in do it yourself spots all around the city is that you're getting these exciting bands from all over, exciting musical acts that are getting people out that are doing something different. And that's something that the normal music venues that you would find in this city still haven't come to realize. Um, there's so many bands that don't have a place to play, but who are creating this amazing music. And, overground venues in Syracuse don't really want anything to do with them. But there's this contingent of people who are trying their damnedest to try to make something happen here and to try to not only have Syracuse have a really great music scene, but for the people in Syracuse, this underground community, to experience all this great music from all over that really doesn't have an outlet except, again, the underground here in Syracuse. So there's a lot of people. There's individuals like John Graham, who has a basement venue called Spitfam House. Um, there's others who are trying their hardest to try to make the 560, Space Camp, Scarier Dome when it was around. Those are just a few of the ones off the top of my head, venues that are or have been trying to get that music out there to people. And that's one thing that is never going away about Syracuse. No matter what basement or ballroom comes or goes, there's always going to be that underground group of people who are constantly working to make this place better musically for everyone. That's the one thing about Syracuse and its underground scene is that the way Syracuse is set up is there isn't, again, any real venues out there that'll host these type of alternative or punk or indie type of bands, and that pushes all these bands, these musicians, these people who just want to go and have a good time. It pushes them further out into basements and garages and whatnot. Um, but it has definitely given Syracuse this reputation for that. A lot of people either don't realize or people are starting to appreciate it, is that Syracuse has an underground scene that truly is unlike anything else out there, at least anywhere else that I've visited or experienced firsthand. There's definitely more going on underground than people I think sometimes even know or appreciate. There's more bands, there's more venues, there's more individuals working to make this place even better than it is. And it's been a battle, but it's really coming into its own. We recently, not only did we recently have Screaming Females play here, for instance, but down the street at the community center, they had another big band called Sheer Mag play on an independent show, not associated with any type of overground music venue. There's a lot of other bands who have come through here over the years that didn't have that access to a real above ground place, but who made the most of where they were playing at in this underground scene. Several years ago, the major national band Deerhoof actually played a basement show about a block over from where we are. And again, that's one of them type of things that you would probably never see them at an above ground venue here in Syracuse. You'd see them at bigger venues around the country, but in Syracuse, they chose to do a basement show. And although it was good connections that got them here, uh, them and everyone who went to that show had an absolute blast. It was something that they'll always remember. And that type of experience is something that you don't get when you go to all the major venues that are still around Syracuse, but you only get in this underground scene that is truly blossoming. Yeah, there's so many people out there who are working on it right now. It is kind of a renaissance for the city and its music scene. and you're probably never going to see um, a larger venue in Syracuse uh, who is going to take this type of music, these type of people seriously. Who's ever going to try to get these regional, semi-national acts through here that a large contingent of Syracuse wants to see? But the underground venues are doing amazing things. They're doing truly amazing things, unlike many other cities out there. Syracuse is known right now throughout the Northeast, especially for its underground scene well more than its overground scene. People know this city from these type of basement shows that they've experienced at one time or another in their lives, and it's one of those things that for people who move here who are into music, that's basically the starting point for your musical journey in this region is experiencing a few basement type of shows and learning your way around, because that's where it starts here. It doesn't start at the places you can find downtown or other venues on Westcott Street. Underground venues are where you experience that magic, that connection to these bands that concert goers, that music fans want to see. It's one thing to pay a bunch of money and to see a band play far away on a stage where there's no type of interaction, no type of humanity, almost in a way. There's no connection. They're playing you music and you're just experiencing it, and then they leave, they finish, and you leave. But at a place like this, it's like these bands from all over, they are right there in front of you. They are mingling with you. They are experiencing the show themselves. The members checking out other music. You can just meet these people, and some of them are friends. Some of them are in bands that you might have been in, and some of them are touring bands from far away. But they're here. They're all here, and they're right here in front of you. The energy, the vibrancy of what they present, of what they offer as a musical act, is literally at your feet. You are right there. And you can take it in here like you couldn't at any other venue. That's where the magic lies. That's where it all is. You're experiencing music kind of the way that it was intended, up close and personal. And that's the way we like it. Financially, playing in a place like this, it's not going to bring you the money that you would, let's say, if you were enough to draw a big crowd at a bigger venue, obviously, you know? But the reward isn't always monetarily driven. If you're a band and you want to get your music out to people, this is the best way to do it. Up close, with the fans, with people who are dying, who are thirsty for some type of new type of music, something different to listen to, something exciting to drive them. This is where people who aren't just here for background noise, people who actually want to experience some music, this is where they go to experience it. You don't experience this at a big arena. It could be a cool show. You could see pyrotechnics, fireworks, all that fun stuff. But this is where you go. This is where you start. This is where the action is. This is where music fans live. The Westcott Ballroom. We try to always post updates to all of our shows to people on Facebook. We are all across all the different types of music show sites and tour listings, and let's say Reverb Nation or Songkick or Eventful, or the list goes on and on. We try to keep pushing what we do out there to the masses however we can. We want people to always be aware if we have a show going on, and we want people to know what is going on here at the Westcott Ballroom. When it comes to bands and feeling that type of reward for playing right in front of people, no better example could be given than Screaming Females. They are the type of band who are essentially way too big for this type of venue, and they have essentially their choice of when and where they want to play, but they knew what we had to offer as a venue, what we had to offer in getting not only a good-sized crowd out here, but getting people out who appreciate them as artists, them as musicians, and people who want to experience that music firsthand. And at the same time, the band themselves not wanting to play from far away from a big stage, not wanting to play to just a hall of random people, but wanting to be there with their fans firsthand, right up close, experiencing that energy. The band feeding off the energy of the crowd feeding off the energy of the band. There's something about that you're not going to find anywhere else out there, but you can find at the Westcott Ballroom. I'm Shawn Beechner. I hope you've enjoyed your time at the Westcott Ballroom. We will see you next time.